So thanks for joining us today. My name is Vincent. I am a product manager at SquaredUp. I am joined today by Ash. Hello, Ash. How are you doing?
Hey, Vince. Very well, thank you. And you?
I'm doing excellent. Before we start, feel free to post any questions on the chat, and we'll do our best to answer your questions at the end of this webinar. Right, let's get going. What we'll start by doing is a little recap before we dive into SquaredUp 5.6, just to take a look back at the last 12 months. The SquaredUp product editions have seen no less than 5 releases, in fact, in the last 12 months, packed with features that a lot of you watching this webinar today are probably already making the most of. So let's just take a look at some highlights. So we introduced a dark theme per dashboard, the ability to turn off interaction per dashboards. We also have with 5.5 a new alert panel, which lets you expand your alerts and sort of see at a glance some of the most important alert data. We also did a big revamp to all our grid tile visualizations. We had a lot of good feedback from a lot of you about the ability to resize columns, change the order of the columns, do some quick search as well on all your grid tiles. We introduced the ability to connect to any of your DBC databases, whether it's Postgres, MySQL, or whatever ODBC database you have. We did a lot of work on making sure the visualizations look just top-notch. This is what we do at SquaredUp. We want to give you the best possible dashboards. The matrix image style as well made its way in the product with 5.4, and that's become really, really popular. Some improvements, the dashboard refresh, you are now able to sort of set the or change the refresh interval depending on the dashboard. We also gave you the ability to change the time frame on your dashboards as well, to set it, including for open access. One popular improvement was the ability to add colors to your scalars as well. So conditional formatting was introduced in 5.3 as well. Scalar is one of the most popular tile, and that change proved very popular indeed. You also now have the ability to share your dashboard to the community. You can submit a dashboard directly from within the application, and we've received quite a number of submissions over the last 12 months, so that's always really great to see. And lastly, just recently, about 2 months ago, we introduced the EAM-X, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. So basically, we are relentlessly working to deliver value in all our product editions. And in doing so, we've always made sure to make it easy for our customers to upgrade to the latest releases. So whether you're coming from version 4 maybe, or maybe you're already on the most recent release, then upgrades are always in place. That means they are easy to execute, and there are no breaking changes as well. So no reasons why you shouldn't be making the most of all of those features that we've done in the last 12 months. But I'm sure you're here today to take a look at SquaredUp 5.6. So let's turn our attention to that, and let's dive with a quick tour, and then Ash will give us a more in-depth demo after that. So let's switch over to the product itself, and this is SquaredUp 5.6. So SquaredUp 5.6 is all about the most highly requested features from our customers. We have the new Tree View visualization that lets you at a glance see the hierarchy and the health status of all your SCOM objects. So you can take quick actions like drilling down with one click directly to a component that might be causing a problem, which is useful when you need clarity during root cause analysis. The tile can be scoped to any SCOM object, and it will always by default display all of its children. It also comes with additional display option that lets you filter on the health states, and also the ability to set the depth that you want to be looking at. Next up, in SquaredUp 5.6, we are excited to introduce a new Sunburst tile. The Sunburst tile essentially lets you visualize your SCOM objects in a unique way. And you can quickly glance at the inner circle that represents the lowest level, or that represents the highest level, I should say, and then you can quickly work your way through the outer level of the Sunburst to see the component that might be causing you a bit of an issue. And when you pair the Sunburst with your enterprise application or EAM-X as well, you can now essentially explore all your objects in a single pane of glass, and perhaps in a way that's easy to navigate and also quick to drill down, much like the Tree View visualization. You can also spin the Sunburst, so that's really useful when you want to change the orientation of the label. And as always, you get additional display options that basically let you customize the look and feel of the Sunburst. Next up is perhaps one of the most popular tile alongside Scala in SquaredUp. It's a status tile. The status tile now supports top n. So essentially you can limit the number of objects that are displayed on it. So in this case, I've got the top 9 objects being displayed. And that essentially gives you more focus and all the while making your dashboards look more consistent as well. We've also added the ability to wrap the labels and sub-labels, so you can further optimize display of the status tile. The SCOM monitor also comes with its own sets of new improvements. Same as the status tile, we have the top end functionality as well, so you can limit the number of monitors that you are seeing on the tile, and you can also sort by health states as well, which is one of the popular requests or demand we were getting from our customers. So do check out the release notes to find out more about these features and other improvements, such as the ability in 5.6 to export the matrix tile to Excel. We've got some new API query parameters that you can set at the provider level, and all the updates we've made to the dashboard, to the out-of-the-box dashboard packs as well. So that's a quick tour of SquaredUp 5.6, and essentially now we're going to go over to the demo. So Ash, why don't you tell us more about how a SCOM admin might perhaps use those features in real life?
Absolutely. Let's just get this screen share sorted. Okay, so is that coming through?
Yes, it is.
Fantastic. Okay, so a bit of a brief introduction to the new functionality. The first place that we're going to take a look at is just some things that might make the SCOM admin's life a little bit easier. So one of the common use cases for the tree view is going to be understanding how objects are related and potentially how that health is rolling up. And a very common example of this is using something like a nested group structure, where if you aren't using distributed applications or enterprise applications, you may just have a number of groups with children, more groups, essentially displaying perhaps regional locations with different availability tests or servers or various things. So one area that you'll note is when you drill down into a group, so this is the United States group, you're just given this kind of flat structure. And this could be scoped to show every object within this group and all the parents, and it will still just be this sort of very flat and unintuitive view. What the tree allows you to do essentially is to visualize this to display how these things are actually nested. So by coming into a status tile, we can now select the tree visualization, and what it will do is it will just very quickly show us how these objects are currently rolling up their health. And the default, of course, as you can probably tell here, is it's showing the critical objects only. Within the configuration, you can, of course, show all objects. So in this case, we actually now have a full inventory of not just the parent group, but all of the children and all of their core components. And then we can configure this however we need to make it appear in the way that we choose. So the max depth is set to 5 first of all. All I'm going to do is just drop that back up a couple of levels just so that we can see the particular servers and the locations that they belong to, which is just a nice way of sort of giving you a quick glance as to where the health state for the United States is actually coming from, and it's because of this one server further down the tree. So that's a great improvement over the sort of standard status tile. Another area that this comes in quite handy with is actually when you look at monitored entity. So this is typically where you will come to understand everything about a particular object, and you'll notice that this has always had the parents and the children in this view, and it's again just a very sort of flat understanding of what the child objects are, and in particular you might be looking at a server and perhaps seeing the parents. So one of the out-of-the-box changes that we've implemented that will be available for GA is actually just to include the tree tile at the very bottom of this page, and that's because it does tend to sort of span out quite quickly. But For a server, this is going to give you the ability to look all the way down to its lowest level, perhaps seeing all of the disks related to it, things like databases. It's just a nice at-a-glance view. And like I say, this inventory is something that we've probably missed out on in the past. We've been able to give you the health, but understanding that health roll-up and how these things are connected is now going to be quite powerful. So that's monitored entity. So I think we want to talk a little bit about top end, Vince.
Sorry, Ash. Yeah. Let's take a look at top end. Yes.
Okay, so top end is something that we have had for quite some time on a number of the tiles. So for example, top 5 alerts, very, very simple. You may have multiple alerts that will make a page grow exponentially if you have multiple of them. So it's quite nice to be able to condense that. We also have had top end for the bar chart, again, the bar performance visualization, which again just gives you an at-a-glance view as to things like the top high consuming CPU, low disk, whatever metrics that you need to see, even though this could be scoped to 20, 30 objects. More recently, we also implemented this for the line graph, and as you can see, we've also implemented it for the grid tile as well. But there were some improvements that were needed, and I just want to sort of take a look at what this would have looked like in previous versions, where you configure a tile showing health states or perhaps monitors on your dashboard, and you may have several of these in a row like we have here. But more often than not, you would not have the same number of objects in each of these. So what you end up with is this horrible sort of disjointed view where your dashboards aren't laid out particularly nicely. And we have made some pretty impressive changes to the dashboard designer over the last couple of years. It's now much more flexible, much more configurable, and hopefully the ease of use that you now experience has been improved as well. So the options available to you back before this were to very simply just toggle the zoom, perhaps to try and give it a little bit of a poke, perhaps try and make it line up a little bit nicer, but it's not perfect. It's not perfect by a long stretch. What we've now brought into the product, and if I just drop into the same dashboard we saw a moment ago, is actually to use top N for the status tile and the monitor tile as well. So although this is showing, in fact, all of the disks in this environment, which again could be 20, 30 objects, similarly with the web tests and enterprise applications here, what we've done is we've said we only want to see the top 10. We've sorted them by their health state, as you could previously, but now this will fill up with the critical objects when they change, and that's going to be much nicer on things like open access dashboards. These are going to fit very well on your wall screens in the office, and just generally this layout is much nicer, right? It's all very compact and concise, and that's exactly what you want from a dashboard.
Thanks, Ash. That's great to see. In fact, it's a common feedback we get from a lot of customers. They want to create dashboard with tiles that have a fixed height, so that the dashboard always looks kind of great and very square, like SquaredUp. So it's nice to see the top end in action. In fact, in future release, we want to continue a little bit on that theme and making sure that every tile, like the donut specifically, can also benefit from the ability to set almost like a maximum height, or maybe the number of legends that you can actually see in a donut. So yeah, more to come on this one. Ash, why don't we continue our journey? Maybe say I am an EAM customer. How might I benefit from the Tree View in the context of my enterprise applications?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, it's going to help you to troubleshoot issues. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to navigate down to one of our enterprise applications. Those of you who have been here before will have seen the sales app. And with this particular issue that we're seeing today, there's a problem with the map. And in order to understand that, generally you probably go into the map itself, view the sort of Vader view to understand how everything's connected, and that is a really powerful way to be able to visualize the application's topology. But what we can actually do now is we can click into the map, and we not too long ago released the root cause perspective, which again had that sort of flat structure down on the left hand side for the child health, but now we've updated this to use the tree view, which again is just giving you at a glance where the problem lies, how that health is rolling up, and should hopefully cut down on the amount of time it takes to actually understand where problems are coming from. Very common to the group structure, they are just children at the end of the day, but this nice tree view should hopefully help you in your day-to-day activities. So I think that was all I had to show you today, Vince, so I shall pass back the reins.
All right, thank you, Ash. That's a great demo. but we have actually got more to show you. So let me share my screen. Hopefully you can see the demo slide.
Yeah, that's coming back through. Thank you.
So a few more updates, perhaps specifically on EAM-X. So it was only 2 months ago that we released EAM-X. It's a new license tier that gives you access to SquaredUp Cloud, which is our new SaaS-based platform. It comes with 40+ native plugins from the likes of SolarWinds, AWS, VMware, Nagios, and quite a few more as well. And with EAM-X, you can essentially bring the health of all of your tools, including your cloud workloads from SquaredUp Cloud into SCOM. And EAM-X has generated a lot of interest. And now with the Sunburst, we can do some really cool visualizations. I'm going to switch over to my demo environment. And what you can see, in fact, here is a pretty sizable sunburst, I should say. But what it shows me is all of my objects and entities that I've mapped in EAM-X using SquaredUp Cloud. So I can see essentially all my teams that I've mapped. I can see all the tools that I've actually been connecting to, like AWS, Azure, Nagios. And so these are my what we call workspaces in SquaredUp Cloud, and then I've got some dashboards, and then I've got essentially some metrics, some tiles. And the Sunburst lets me really, in a cool way, explore the dependencies and sort of the health rollup. And it lets me see, for instance, that my T1 app is red, so I can kind of understand very quickly why that might be the case. There seems to be an issue with some HTTP 4xx errors on my Azure functions. And so here again, I can very quickly sort of drill down. Again, I'm still in SquaredUp SCOM edition. That's my single pane of glass. Here it's telling me why it's red. It's looking at the last 24 hours. There is an error because the number of errors is actually greater than 0. So it's coming up as red. And then from here, I can, as always, drill down and sort of go directly to SquaredUp Cloud. And then SquaredUp Cloud will actually tell me a little bit more about what the issue might be. So that's how the Sunburst can be sort of leveraged and used in the context of EAM-X health rollups. But we are also quite pleased to announce that as well. Now you're able to, so as well as I guess being able to visualize the status of your objects from all your tools with the EAM-X, you can actually now selectively import specific entities and objects into SCOMs. So what I mean by that is if you're, say, monitoring your hundreds of network devices in SolarWinds, those individual network devices will actually be imported into SCOM as objects along with their health states. And that's coming from SquaredUp Cloud native plugins into SCOM editions. That's quite a big improvement. That means you'll be able to sort of have finer details about the objects that are monitored by those third-party tools. So do check out the link at the bottom, squaredup.com/EAM-X for more information, and also it will tell you how you can get started with EAM-X as well. So that's SquaredUp 5.6. We hope you'll enjoy the new features from the new Tree View visualization, Sunburst, and a few other improvements that you've seen today. If you're using SCOM edition, all the features that you've seen today are available actually today in the release candidate. So feel free to head over to download.squaredup.com and get your hands on the release candidate. If you're using Azure or the community editions, you'll also be able to make the most of the improvements that we've made to the status style, as well as the API improvements. As always, in-place upgrades are supported. In fact, they are recommended. There are no breaking changes if you're coming from version 4 or version 5.5 or earlier, and we'll continue to give priority support for customers who use release candidates. And the GA, the general availability, is due in mid-July, in about 2 to 3 weeks time from now. So before we take some questions from the chat, just a few things to mention, a few events coming up. But first of all, don't forget to browse our ever-growing list of library of dashboards. They are very useful to essentially help you get started with the product. And you can also submit your dashboard to the library as well, and you can actually enter a competition and maybe become the next community champion. One session that we are running on the 26th of July is a coffee break, which will give you the opportunity to learn more about EAM-X. And we will actually be joined by a special guest customer who has started to use EAM-X, and he will share his experience with EAM-X and how he's using it inside of his organization. So do watch out for the email invite that should be out shortly. And lastly, SCOM is back in its 2022 edition. So we are asking anyone who wants to compete in the SCOM to come forward. And also we are opening up registration for attendees as well to join. So the link is there as well here on this slide. Right, that's it for today. So let's go over to some questions. Ash, do you want to maybe get us started with some questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So very nice comment that just said, thanks, looks very nice. That's a good start for us today. So one question was around how many levels you can view within the tree. So I believe we've called that the max depth. How far does that go? Is that down to an unlimited amount, or is it a hard set?
It pretty much is, I would say, it's unlimited in some ways, but it really will be most useful when you want to look at it from sort of like 5, 6 level down. There may be the odd cases when you need a bit more, but as you've seen, as we've seen from your demo, Ash, I think the tree view on your perspective, you are typically going down to 3 levels, and that gave you most of the sort of at a glance that you kind of needed at that precise moment in time. But yes, you can go a lot higher than the 5 or 6 if you dare to.
Yeah. So the next question was just around how the Sunburst is scoped. So the Sunburst uses object scope, much like the status tile. So you can do things like custom criteria to say, you know, I want to, actually a good example is the EAM-X demo that you gave there, Vince, where you could choose to display perhaps a workspace and then use the criteria for the display name to only show workspaces that contain perhaps T1 or some kind of regex to basically filter it down to only the key objects. It stops it from spiraling out of control, I'm sure, as you guys can understand, because of the amount of information it's capable of displaying. If you throw in the all Windows computers group, it does get pretty disgusting. So the filtering is pretty good. It will give you lots of configurability to make sure that has just the amount of information that you require.
There was a question as well about whether what is the future of the SCOM edition in comparison to SquaredUp Cloud. Is you know, we're asking our customers to move to the cloud, and we got to be very clear with that. And SquaredUp SCOM edition on premise, the product you're using today, is very much here to stay. You've seen all the releases we've done and the sort of the new features and the maintenance and the great care we take to maintain the product and to give it new features. That will continue in the future. We have absolutely no plans to sort of move that to the cloud. Essentially, EAM-X and SquaredUp Cloud is an add-on to SquaredUp SCOM edition. So again, if you're interested, just get in touch with us, but it does not replace SquaredUp SCOM edition. So that's, in fact, what we typically hear from our customers is SquaredUp SCOM edition is their single pane of glass, and they very much want to keep it as their single pane of glass, and SquaredUp Cloud becomes this kind of add-on extension to let them sort of bring more data over from third-party tools.
So there's a couple of questions around maintenance mode. So there's been no changes in this release around maintenance mode, but the two questions that I see are actually along the same lines. And it's about being able to put a list of servers into maintenance mode. I'm guessing that's more sort of an ad hoc thing rather than, say, putting a tile together to then action maintenance mode against it. Whilst that isn't possible, you can, of course, just search for a SCOM group that hopefully contains the servers that you require, and then you can place the group into maintenance mode, which will also contain its members. If there's anything specific that you'd like to see with maintenance mode in the product or anything else, please please do reach out to the support team with your feature requests. We do review those quite regularly, as Vince said, and as with anything, the more people that want it, the more likely it is that it will get action. So please do send those over to support@squaredup.com.
Cool. I have a question as well about whether all the features are available across all the SCOM license tiers. So SCOM edition comes in with 4 license tiers, so Teams, Connect, EAM, and EAM-X. And the answer is absolutely yes. Every feature you've seen today is available across all the tiers. So whichever tier you're on, whichever license tier, you'll be able to make the most of what you've seen today.
Yeah, and a very similar question is, does this impact any of the other products? So Azure, for example, I believe that is the Treeview available in Azure as well?
Not the tree view, but the status styles, status styles for improvements, and the ability to set API query parameters at the provider level. Then that's, yes, absolutely available in the Pseudo and Community Edition.
Perfect. So I think the specific question was around being able to limit the number of results for the status tile. So yes, that is available.
That's available, yeah.
Excellent. I think that was all the questions that we had. There are a couple of questions in there that are unrelated to this release. So what I'll do is I'll reach out to those outside of the webinar, just so that we can give everyone a bit of time back, perhaps grab a coffee. But back over to you then, Vince.
Great. Well, it just leaves me to say thank you for everyone for attending. And thank you, Ash, for your time as well today. Great demo. Hope it was inspiring for everyone. And yeah, if you have any feedback, anything, you know where we are. We're always usually very available, keen to talk to our customers. So do reach out to us. And yeah, have a great day. Thank you, Ash. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.